Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sippin' on Stories podcast. I'm Andy Corey, your host. I'm so delighted that you're here with me today. I thought I would give you a little update after last week's episode, which if you have not yet listened to that, go ahead and do it. It was a fun one for me. My sister talks about a kind of creepy experience that she had as a teenager that she feels like can only be explained by ghosts because she couldn't find any other, explanation. So again, if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and do it. But if you have listened, at the very end, I kind of gave what my mom's memory of that story was. And then I was like, I'll have to ask my brother Hadley what his was. And in case you were wondering, I did end up asking, and he said, and I quote, "I mainly just remembered her being like, 'Get your shoes, we're leaving this second.' She was a calm freaking out, aka you can tell she was freaking out, but she was trying to be calm." So, that's all I got from that, in case you were wondering. All right, for today's episode, we have a friend of mine I have known at this point for close to, about 8 years. And I had never heard this story from them. So that was really interesting to me and shocking. However, this friend of mine, to protect the privacy of loved ones and stuff involved in this story, requested to have a altered voice. So I went ahead and did that. And let me remind you, back at the very beginning of this podcast, I said you are all going to be learning along with me as I am doing this. And one of those things was the first time I disguised someone's voice. But by doing that, my voice also kind of sounds distorted, little echoey, little strange. I did want to give a little trigger warning in this episode that it does involve child harm. Was quite a sad and surprising story, but I did want to give that little trigger warning there. So I'm grateful for my friend for coming on, sharing this story that they had never told me, and in turn are now telling it to you. So here is your story for today. One of my friends, and they are going to choose to be anonymous. Do you need a name for yourself?
Sure.
Okay. You can choose. Maybe like a Derek.
Okay.
Okay. Derek, is that okay?
Yep.
All right, so we have Derek, and they have a story for me. They sent me a podcast to give me some information before they came on, and I said, I don't even want to listen to the podcast to give me any information as to what this story is about. So I'm going to let Derek just kind of go with their story. And
okay, sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I guess I'll just give you a little background knowledge. This all happened when I was about 11 years old. I lived with my mom and my dad and my two siblings. Both my parents were teachers, and we just kind of had this normal life. We went to church every Sunday, just nothing out of the ordinary. A lot of times people would say we had the perfect family, and so it ends up getting kind of spicy down the road, and things aren't always what they seem. So the summer after 6th grade, my mom and grandma set off on a trip to visit relatives in Florida. My older sister had just graduated high school, and she was headed off to college in Idaho that same week. So it was going to be me and my younger sibling and my dad for a couple of weeks just at home together.
You said you were in 6th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's the summer after 6th grade. And I didn't really think anything of it until a couple days after my mom had flown out and my sister had left. My dad brought home a woman, and he came up to me and he said, "I want to introduce you to my friend. Her name is Sheila." And I, my dad had never ever brought home a woman. We had had like family friends where the husband and wife would come over, and families would come over and go swimming at our house, but never just like a single woman. And so he kind of told me off in another room, Sheila's husband isn't being very nice to her, and so she is going to stay in mom and dad's room, and I'm going to sleep on the couch. And
were you like, that's weird?
So weird.
Yeah. And what was this woman like? Your dad's age, younger, older, like?
About 10 to 12 years younger than him.
Okay.
And so, yes, I mean, I'm thinking all these things, but I'm also like a very good child. I never ask questions. I'm kind of timid and I'm a pleaser. And so I just kind of go with it and I nod my head and I'm just being polite to this lady that I have no idea who she is.
Is she like interacting with you, or is she just like staying away?
So she introduced herself to me, and then at first she kind of just went to be by herself in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. So I guess took my dad's word for it that she was a friend, and that she needed somewhere to go, and so she was just going through something. Mm-hmm. My little 11-year-old mind didn't really understand everything, but I did think it was odd. Mm-hmm. So, let's see. So a couple days later, Sheila asked me if she could talk to me, and she took me into my bedroom, and I just remember us like sitting down on the bottom bunk, and she told me that her and my dad were in love and that he wanted to marry her. And I just sat there and I felt like all these feelings were going to erupt out of me, but I wasn't the type of kid that made any ripples, and I just kind of sat there, but I wanted to like scream. I wanted to run and like go yell at my dad and say, "What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this?"
Did you like ask her questions, or was it like a super short, weird interaction?
It was really short. She even, now that I think back on it, like kind of had the audacity to say, "I hope you're happy for us," and something to the effect of, "I hope we can become good friends and be a family."
Do you remember what you said to her, or did you just sit there in silence?
I sat there and just nodded. Like, I didn't have any words, but I think as I left the room, I started crying, and I think I went to my room.
Was your dad home at the time that she talked to you?
Okay. He was home.
So he knew she was probably in there talking to you about it?
I think he put her up to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that it just all happened so fast. Like I said before, my mom had just flown with my grandma to Florida for a couple days before that, and all of a sudden, like, I'm understanding that, like, my dad wants a divorce, and he's already moving in some lady, and they're making plans, and I'm, like, supposed to happily accept, like, all this, and so inside, like, I can feel like the turmoil and the like just a thunderstorm just kind of brewing inside of me. But like I said, my personality wasn't to say anything. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of to go with it. So So a couple days after Sheila had broke the news to me that her and my dad were in love, she brought over her two daughters. And they were young. They were like 3 and 5 years old. And they started to come over. I think they would go to daycare, and then she would pick them up and she would bring them over to my house. And it was almost like we were playing family.
You said your brothers were at home too?
Just one.
Oh, okay. How old was your brother?
He was 5 at the time.
So similar age to these two little girls.
Mm-hmm.
So you're all just playing
Yeah,
together.
they would come over, they would eat dinner, I would play with them, I would do their hair, and then they would end up going back to their house with their dad.
And I'm assuming you haven't, like, talked to your mom. Like, she hasn't called you.
No.
Okay.
So my mom has no idea what's going on.
You're playing family with a different family.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing is my sister, who had gone off to college, she had a boyfriend that she left behind, and he would, come by, and he was just used to being around our family. Well, he knew something was up, and when he saw that another lady was leaving and my dad was spending time with another person, he called my mom in Florida.
Oh, good for the boyfriend.
Yeah. And so she ended up making arrangements to fly home right away. So I don't know I guess I've never really asked her, but I imagine she was trying to get a hold of him and he wasn't answering phone calls, and she just was like, I'm going home. And so she was flying home. So the next day, Sheila and my dad and me and my little brother drove to Sheila's house to pick up her girls.
This was, your mom's not home yet.
Yes.
But she's on her way home.
She's flying, so it's making arrangements, flying, so it's taking a couple days.
Okay. Anyway, so you said the next day, so like the day after she brought, or you're just saying at some point on another day?
No, so let's see. So it was a couple days after Sheila had told me that her and my dad were in love.
Oh.
A couple days later, I started playing with the girls, and they would come over for dinner. A couple days after that, we went to go pick up the girls with Sheila.
From her house?
Yes, from where they were staying with their dad. And so we parked in the driveway, and Sheila walked up to the door and knocked. We were just kind of watching from the car, and my dad was in the car. He stayed with us, and nobody answered. And I just thought that's weird, because like they know that we're coming, or that at least that Sheila's coming. And so she came back to the car and she talked to my dad, and then she went back and she knocked on the door again, and still no answer. So I saw her turn the knob and push the door open, and she stepped in like just a couple steps, and then she backed out, shut the door, and then she walked back to our car. And I just had the worst feeling ever. Like, I didn't know if there was going to be an angry husband like running out to beat my dad up, or I didn't know what was going on, but I could tell that Sheila was nervous, and we just drove away.
She didn't say anything. She just got in the car and you left.
I feel like I remember her talking to my dad in Spanish, and I didn't understand.
Okay.
And it just felt like it was very nervous and very like immediate, like something's happening. So we drove away and we went home, and I just remember the next day I was in my backyard and my dad came out and he said, I was playing with my dogs, and my dad said, something really bad happened. And I said, what happened? And he said that Sheila's husband was not happy that she and my dad were, or that she was wanting out of the marriage, and that she was with another man, and that he had killed his daughters, both of them.
Oh, I was really hoping that that is not where the story was headed.
Yeah. And I just was
himself as well, or just the girls?
So let me keep going, because it just unfolds even more. But so he told me that the dad used a saw on one of the daughters.
No.
Like some sort of an electric, like, yard saw.
Oh my gosh. That is sick.
It is horrible. And then he shot the other little girl. And so...
A saw?
Yeah. And as the story goes on, the things that he says, like, it just doesn't make any sense, which just makes me think that he was to the edge, like, seeing his life falling apart between his eyes. Like, there was obviously some mental stuff going on.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So your dad's telling you the details of this.
Yes.
And how are you responding?
I'm just kind of like it just felt like a bad dream, like it wasn't real. And then he told me that when Sheila had walked up to the door and she opened it and pushed it open, that she smelt gasoline. And that's what made her back up and shut the door.
She didn't see the girls, she just smelled it. Okay.
She didn't see anything. And then when she got in the car after we went home, she called the police. And that's when the police went and they found the two girls. They also found that the dad had shot himself.
I kind of assumed that was going to be part of the story.
Yeah. And what we assume was happening was that he was waiting for Sheila so that he could then shoot her as well, and that the whole family would be gone, and then he would light a match, and because he poured gasoline in the house, and so he was just going to take care of it all, with the fire.
Oh my gosh.
So she thankfully didn't step in too much further, and I think that, obviously he knew that and knew what he was going to do next.
You're not like a huge true crime person, but have you heard of Josh Powell? Okay, this story is just like reminding me so much of Josh Powell, because he was like a psycho dad and he had two little boys, and very similar, like the way he killed his two little boys, lit the house on fire, like, and the wife is missing. Nobody knows where she is.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, just like reminding me of that story. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
and so sad.
It's crazy. So the police also found a letter addressed to Sheila, and in it said, "I'm not going to let anybody else raise my children, and I had to do this so that no one else would have my children and we would be together." And so the next few years were super rough. My mom came home. They got a divorce, obviously. And he kind of stayed by Sheila.
What was your mom's like initial reaction when she came home, saw your dad? What was that like?
So my dad kind of took off. He and Sheila, after the funerals, kind of took off for almost a year, and we didn't see them, and they just kind of traveled. And in a small town, you can't get away from everybody knowing.
Did your mom like have any inclination that
any of it was going on? No. No. But I feel like they kind of had a rough marriage. I don't think that she was necessarily happy. I don't think that he was necessarily happy. There was some controlling behaviors going on his part, but I mean, she would never have done something like that. I think, I don't know, midlife crisis, whatever. She was a lot younger woman, and sometimes the grass just seems greener.
Oh, of course.
On the other side. So, I'm not sure whether my mom was more shocked about the affair and our lives kind of falling apart, or about the deaths of the two innocent girls. So, after a few years, Sheila and my dad did get married, and they had a child together. But I think with the reminders to each other every day, it just couldn't work.
No, I don't know how that could have worked. Like, so traumatizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, they separated, and, it was just like a whirlwind. And I remember.
Did you go to the funeral for the girls?
I feel like I didn't.
Okay.
But they talked about it. They ended up that Sheila buried the two girls right next to the dad. So that was.
I don't really like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe more of like being gracious to his side of the family.
That makes sense, I guess.
But I mean, any way you look at it, it's so messed up that I don't know. You can't really try to make sense of what everyone's thinking. At the same
time, like, okay, well, I guess you could just put the girls by themselves together.
Yeah. So that is the story of just a normal person's everyday life that within a matter of like days just completely it turned our lives around. And I think I was saying earlier, I didn't think it would affect me as much as it did. But there was a lot of like anxiety and therapy that I had to go through when I got into my 20s, just trying to deal with that and my identity and embarrassment of like family choices and then this just feeling of like always needing to prove myself that I was going to be good because I had this background that just like kind of haunted us.
It's not good part of your family life.
Yeah.
Did you talk to your dad after and Sheila?
Yeah. So
and your sibling too. I'm curious if you.
Yeah. So, we ended up going after the divorce every other weekend I would spend with my dad. And so they were together for on and off for like 10 years.
That's kind of a long time.
Yeah. And they didn't get married until the last year. And they got married, and then they had my sibling and then it just wasn't working.
So you've probably not stayed in contact. Like, you do know that sibling at all?
I do, but not super well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was rough, and I think for good reason. They've tried to keep our families separate.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has since passed on, and so there's not a whole lot that's connecting us, and it's kind of just easy to be separate. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy how something, because like the story with Eric when I was a kid, I mean, you were older than I was, but like, just to know at such a young age that there's like evil things that happen, or even just starting with the affair, like to have that be brought into your family when at this point you're like, happy family, Stitch is going off to college, like all these fun things, and then to see that there's also like this evil that has happened to these two young girls. Like, a sixth grader doesn't need to know that. And like, I reflect back on just knowing the story about Eric and his dad killing him, and it's just like, you remember that, like, and somehow it weaves its way into your life.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. You spend the rest of your life, for some weird reason, either trying to figure yourself out or your parents out, or trying to compensate for what they didn't give you or couldn't do for you. And so, yeah, I don't think any parent makes mistakes thinking that the aftermath will be that bad.
Yeah, like, they don't know that it's going to ripple as much. Yours rippled a lot. Like, there's a lot of ripples with that. But,
yeah,
like, yeah, it can change
everything in just an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like,
it's so sad. It just makes you really, I don't know, try to think before you act, and your actions don't just affect you. They can affect your family for years and years. And so
the podcast that you had sent me was about Sheila's ex-husband, I'm assuming, and the girls.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And does it just go into more detail?
So
that doesn't mention your dad is like, she was having like an affair or whatever with somebody.
So the podcast talks about this couple that has a great life. They're kind of the American dream. They've got 2 little girls living on the golf course. Just everything seems to be going great in their life. And then they start having money trouble. And as the money trouble gets worse, so are things in the relationship. And it talks about Sheila leaving and wanting to be separated. And then it just talks about how this man that was well known in the city and, had friends and had family around, like, all of a sudden just lost it and ended up killing his little girls.
So it doesn't talk about the letter in that podcast episode of him being like, nobody else is raising these girls?
No. It says that there was a letter left, and that it explained that he didn't want his family to break apart, and he couldn't handle, like, things going the way they were. So I don't even know that he knew my dad or who he was or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from the other podcast, it doesn't mention anything about an affair or any reasons. It just says that her leaving him caused things to start in motion. But there's
That's so interesting that it mentions nothing about... Was it known? Like, well, clearly they knew. They found the letter. Like, clearly the police knew about it.
Yes. I think they tried to keep some things private. Especially like teachers in the community. They try to save their reputation so that, teachers don't need a bad rap.
Because you said your dad was a teacher?
Both my parents were teachers,
Okay.
yeah. So the other podcast just kind of talked about this family and how it unraveled and just went bad out of the blue, and that like he had friends, he had family and normal life, like American dream, and then it just all went bad. But like my side of the story that's so intertwined and kind of set things in motion with my dad being part of it. Like I just found it interesting when I listened to the podcast. I'm like, wow, like they completely missed like half the story.
Yeah.
And I was right there. Like I was
car.
10 feet away from the house where these girls were just already murdered. And I was just playing with them, and I was just doing their hair, and it was just amazing. I didn't get it as an 11-year-old, but like as I grew up, it just hit me more and more, and it was just so sad, and so much evil that went on, and so much, I don't know, pain, and it's just so sad that, I don't know, my dad's first thoughts were probably like, this will work out better than my marriage, and not knowing that the ripple effect would be that children would die. And
do you remember, I can imagine that would weigh on your dad and Sheila like a ton. Like, do you remember how their countenance was? Like, I know you said they kind of took off for a year, but I would believe that would probably affect them for a long time, like the guilt or whatever. Like, do you remember that being a part? Like, did they talk about the girls a lot? Did they talk about this experience, or did they seem different after that?
So it kind of, I know that it affected Sheila. I mean, most of all, like, she was devastated, and we would go visit the girls' gravesite. We would bring birthday presents. I mean, they had Christmas presents. Like, they had huge pictures of them in their house. Whenever I would visit, I would always see their pictures. And so they tried to remember them, and she would talk to them. She would talk to me and my brother about them. And she would cry. I think that me not being there every day, I didn't see the whole picture, but I think that any mother would just be hard to like live without their
I would
kids.
not be able to function. And I can imagine like the guilt that I would feel for the rest of my life, like, would be so astronomical.
Yeah. I don't doubt that she felt that, but I mean, there's only two ways it can go. You can either not deal with it or do the best you can to keep moving forward, and I just don't think that they could do that together.
I agree.
And I don't think it ever would have been a healthy relationship, so yeah.
Well, that was crazy. And now that you've told me, I will be listening to the podcast episode, and I will be linking that podcast in the description of this episode for those of you who also would want to hear that. But crazy, Derek. The fact that I had never heard that before is, crazy.
Yes, it's funny that we think we know people, right?
Well, you're kind of like a scaredy cat and don't like to talk about scary, like true crime things. But little did I know you had this big true crime story in your own past.
That is really true.
Yeah.
Maybe because my life is too close to
you don't need any
true
extra
crime story.
That's true.
Yep.
Okay, well, I did realize I didn't ask you the question I ask everybody, which is what your favorite drink is. So I have to ask you that before we end this podcast episode.
Yes. I love sipping on soda. And I probably get one every single day, sometimes twice a day.
It's good.
I get a 32-ounce Diet Dr. Pepper with raspberry puree, coconut, and coconut cream.
So good.
Yes.
But you used to get Huckleberry too. Like I tried Huckleberry because of you in my Pepsi, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I did. And then I had to start going diet. And then there's something about raspberry I can't let go of.
It's so good.
It is.
Mm-hmm. It's fresh. When I need to change up my drink,
yeah.
I always have my coconut cream, my vanilla. But when I need something a little bit more like fruity, fresh, I get the raspberry.
Yes.
Not the puree. I just get the syrup. But it's still so good.
It is. Sometimes if you sip the puree, it's almost like getting a gulp of jelly. So you really have to just swish it around a little bit.
I think that's why I got it like one time, maybe 2 times to try it. And I was just like, I think I could go without the drinking. Yeah. Drinking jam.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it gets stuck in my straw. And then I'm like, okay. Or there's like a huge clump of it in the bottom of the cup. Then I'm like, okay. So I went to just the syrup. I don't get it very often, but still.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Eric.
You're welcome.
Okay. We'll see you soon. See you. Bye.
Bye. I'm sorry. I'm so awkward.
Wow. Wasn't that story just so tragic? I have thought about those 2 little girls so many times in the last week. And I know stuff like that happens in the real world, but it's just really so sad to think about that somebody could do that. Clearly they were really struggling. But you know what? It was actually really special having this conversation with my friend after we finished recording. We continued to talk for quite some time just about how this story had impacted their lives as a child and continued to do that all through growing up and still continues to do that. And it was a really good conversation, really sad, but also just a really good connecting conversation. And I was just really grateful for them for sharing that story. I know that it was not easy for them to share, and there was a reason why they had not told me about it for the entire time that I had known them. So again, I'm grateful. But we were able to kind of connect on having traumatic experience happen to us when we were children. I had mentioned in this episode talking with them about being a kid and having Eric die and witnessing just like evil in the world. And if you heard that and you did not know what I was referring to, go back to episode 1 where I interview my mom, and you will hear the story that I'm talking about there if you have not yet listened to that. After this episode, if you have thought that there is a story that you would like to share, that you have not wanted anybody to know that it is you, but you would love to get it off your chest, share it with somebody, here is proof that I can disguise your voice. I can give you a different name, whatever you need or want to make you feel comfortable coming on to this podcast with me, which you can do if you go to my Instagram at Sippin' on Stories podcast and go to the submit a story highlight, fill out the form, and you can come on the podcast, or you can email me sippinonstoriespodcast@gmail.com, and you can get a hold of me that way too. Okay, you guys, I figured it had been, a few weeks since I had done a What Am I Sippin' On segment, so I decided I was going to do that today. And let me tell you one thing that I have become obsessed with lately, and that is Alex Warren. I have just been loving his songs, more specifically the Ordinary song. I can listen to that so many times on repeat, and it's just as good as it was the first time. But it's not just that song. Like, if I put that on and then another Alex Warren song comes on directly after, I'm like, oh man, this is so good. And then if another one comes on, I'm like, gosh, this is just so good. I just really love Alex Warren right now. I don't know anything about him. I just know that I really like the song Ordinary and the other songs that come on. So that is something I have been really enjoying. And so much so that I decided to look up, he's got to be on tour. Is he coming near me? And you know what? He is. He is going to be near me in a couple of weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to his concert. That's one thing about me, you guys, is I love a good concert. Well, it doesn't even have to be good. I just love concerts. I love music. I love people that can sing. And I love it. Unfortunately, my husband, don't get me wrong, we've been to concerts and he does, if he really likes the person, like, he can enjoy a concert, but concerts are just not his, like, thing that he loves to do. Thankfully, I do have a great concert buddy in my life. Shout out to the bestie Santana. We have been to some really good concerts together. So I'm grateful that I have someone that I can go to. But I just love a concert. But I told myself I don't need to go. I don't need to go and spend the money. But oh man, do I want to. So you know what? If tickets just like happen to magically appear, I would not be upset. I just love a good concert. There's another one. In fact, it's this week in my hometown that I would really love to be at. And I had to be strong, you guys, and say, I don't need to go to that concert. But it took everything in me to not buy those tickets because I just love a good concert. So just a random tidbit of knowledge about me. If I had one talent, if everyone's like, oh, if you could pick one talent, what would it be? Mine would be to sing. And people can be like, oh, you know what? You can learn that talent. No, I can't. That's not in the cards for me. So I just really love to go and watch other people with that amazing talent. So specifically right now, Alex Warren. Anyway, let me know if you also have been enjoying Alex Warren or another artist and which one that is. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. Okay, so that's it for today for our episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. I love you guys. If you want to be on the podcast, please submit your story. If not, I would love it if you shared the podcast, commented on any of the posts, shared the social media pages with your friends, left a comment or a review. I would love that. Really appreciate it. I'll see you here again next week for another episode of the Sippin' on Stories podcast.